What if I told you that the biggest financial opportunity of the century isn't technology, isn't crypto, and isn't artificial intelligence? What if the real gold rush is happening right now, in the apocalypse itself? While you're arguing about whether climate change is real, billionaires are already cashing in, and they're not buying what you think. If you want to understand where money is really flowing and why the future economy looks nothing like what they're telling you, hit that subscribe button right now. Because on this channel, we dig through the past to expose what the powerful don't want you to see about money. And today's story is going to change how you see everything. Here's what's actually happening while everyone's distracted by the debate. Insurance companies aren't just raising your rates, they're literally erasing entire zip codes from their maps. Just gone. No coverage available at any price. Hedge funds aren't investing in stocks anymore. They're buying water rights like they're hoarding gold bars in a vault. Energy giants, the same ones who built their empires on oil, are suddenly rebranding themselves as environmental saviors. And you're supposed to just believe them? And governments? Oh, they're not just fighting climate change, they're trading it, buying it, selling it, packaging it up like mortgage bonds before 2008. Because somewhere between the panic and the policy, someone had a revelation. Someone smart, someone ruthless, someone who realized this isn't just a crisis, it's the opportunity of a lifetime, a trillion-dollar one. Welcome to Monetary Archaeologist, where we follow the money through history, because the truth is never where they tell you to look. Let's go back, way back. For over 200 years, there's been one rule that built empires and destroyed them just as fast. Whoever controls energy controls everything. Coal made Britain unstoppable. By 1850, Britain was producing more coal than every other country on Earth combined. Not just a little more than all of them put together. And it wasn't an accident. Every ton of coal that left Newcastle wasn't just fuel. It was power. It was control. It was Britain printing money with smoke and fire. Then oil took over. John D. Rockefeller and Standard Oil didn't just get rich. They built an empire so powerful that governments bent the knee. Then OPEC in the 1970s proved that whoever had the oil had the world by the throat. Every empire's wealth came from what it burned, and every collapse started when that fuel ran out or became too expensive to control. So when people say the climate crisis will reshape the global economy, that's not some activist talking point. It's already happening right now while you sleep. But here's the twist nobody talks about. What's new isn't the crisis itself. It's that this time, the crisis is the product. The smoke, the storms, the fear, the panic, all of it has been turned into something you can buy, sell, and trade on Wall Street. Let me show you how deep this goes. The story most people don't know starts way earlier than you think. 1896. That's not a typo. 1896. A Swedish chemist named Svante Arrhenius did the math. He calculated that burning coal could actually warm the entire planet. He published it. Scientists read it. And then, nothing. The world just kept burning. For most of the 1900s, climate change wasn't an environmental issue. It was a business model. Fast forward to the 1950s. Exxon, yes, that Exxon, had their own scientists running the numbers. And those scientists were terrifyingly accurate. Their internal memos, kept secret for decades, warned that if we kept burning fossil fuels, the planet would heat up by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius within a century. They were right, down to the decimal point. And what did Exxon do with this information? They buried it, deep. Because here's the thing, you can't sell fear if that fear kills your product. So they did what any rational corporation would do. They kept selling, they kept drilling, and they funded decades of confusion and doubt. But by the 1990s, governments couldn't ignore it anymore. The evidence was everywhere. So they finally acted. And that's when things got really interesting. Here's where the whole game changed. When governments woke up in the 1990s, they had a choice: punish the polluters, shut down the industries, force change. But that's not what happened. Instead, they did something much more clever. They priced pollution. The Kyoto Protocol in 1997 was supposed to save the planet by limiting carbon emissions, and it did create limits, but it also created something else: the first global market for pollution. Think about that for a second. We didn't stop pollution, we monetized it.
Here's how it works, and trust me, this is simpler than it sounds. Governments gave countries and corporations carbon credits, basically permits to pollute. You get a budget. Let's say you're allowed to emit 100 tons of carbon this year. Now, if you pollute less, say you only emit 80 tons, you've got 20 tons of credits left over, and you can sell those to someone else who went over their limit. On paper, it's genius. It's capitalism solving an environmental problem. In reality, it's a casino where the house always wins. By 2005, the European Union launched the world's largest carbon trading system. Today, it handles over $1 trillion in trades every single year. But here's the dirty secret. Those carbon credits, a lot of them were completely fake. Companies were paying to protect forests that were already protected. Some of those forests didn't even exist. Investigators found projects that were just made up. Fictional carbon savings traded for real money. So instead of reducing emissions, we just created a financial loop. Pollution became a business expense, and going green became a story you could trade. Wall Street looked at this and saw what they always see: opportunity. Carbon markets became the new derivatives, a way to speculate on salvation itself. But the real gold rush was just beginning. Once carbon became an asset, everything connected to it followed. Renewable energy was next. By the 2010s, solar and wind weren't hippie dreams anymore. They were investment opportunities. Governments poured billions into subsidies. Investors poured trillions into funds promising to save the planet. But when that much capital floods into a new sector, history tells us exactly what happens. It's a gold rush, every single time. This time, it wasn't oil barons drilling in Texas. It was tech billionaires, venture capitalists, and green startups racing to monopolize the future of energy. Tesla became the new Rockefeller. At its peak, Tesla was worth more than Toyota, Volkswagen, and Ford combined. Not because it made more cars, because it sold a vision of tomorrow. But here's what they don't tell you in the marketing. Behind every solar panel and electric car battery is another empire, a new one, and it's just as dirty as the old one. Lithium in Bolivia, cobalt in the Congo, nickel in Indonesia. These are the metals that power clean energy. And getting them out of the ground? It's brutal. Mines expanding into indigenous land, workers dying in collapsing tunnels, entire ecosystems poisoned. The clean energy revolution is built on blood and dirt, just like the last one. And in this new race, one superpower quietly took the lead while everyone was distracted: China. China controls over 60% of the world's rare earth production, more than 80% of refining capacity. If you want to build a battery, a solar panel, or a wind turbine, you're probably buying from China. The West builds the cars and the panels, but China owns the supply chain. If oil was America's weapon in the 20th century, rare earth minerals are China's weapon now. The names change, the game stays the same. Control the resource, control the world. But the financial world wasn't done innovating, because if you can trade carbon and you can invest in green energy, why not take it one step further? Why not bet on the disaster itself? Enter catastrophe bonds. Here's how they work, and I promise this will make your skin crawl. An insurance company is terrified of paying out billions after a hurricane, so they create a bond. Investors buy that bond and get paid interest regularly. But here's the kicker. If a hurricane hits and meets certain conditions, specific wind speed, specific damage levels, the investors lose their money. The insurance company keeps it to cover the disaster. So investors are literally betting that disasters won't happen. And insurance companies are betting they will. It's disaster capitalism in the most literal sense. And it's massive. By 2023, the catastrophe bond market was worth over $40 billion. Pension funds bought them. Hedge funds loved them. Because when everything else is volatile, catastrophe is consistent. Every flood, every fire, every hurricane. It's not just a tragedy anymore. It's a line item. On a balance sheet, the worse the climate gets, the bigger the market grows. Now, while all this was happening in the shadows, Wall Street needed a rebrand. After 2008, when the banks almost collapsed the entire global economy, people were angry. They wanted accountability. They wanted change. So the financial world gave them something shiny and new. 3 letters: ESG. Environmental, Social, Governance. It sounded perfect. Invest in companies that care about the planet, that treat workers fairly, that govern responsibly. Finally,
you could make money and feel good about it. By 2022, ESG funds held over $40 trillion. That's 1/3 of all professionally managed money on the planet. Every major bank had an ESG fund. Every asset manager launched one. But then you read the fine print. There was no standard definition of what sustainable actually meant. The rules were so loose that a coal company could qualify as green if it checked enough boxes. Fossil fuel companies appeared in ESG portfolios. Oil giants promised net zero by 2050 while expanding drilling operations. Sustainability became a marketing term. Ethics became a product you could buy. And the rating agencies, the same ones that slapped AAA ratings on junk mortgages before 2008, now sold climate virtue scores. They turned morality into a subscription service. The psychology was perfect. Most people don't want to destroy the planet, but they also don't want to lose money. ESG offered the perfect solution: feel good while staying profitable. And billions flowed right back into the same corporations that caused the crisis in the first place, just with a green label slapped on top. It wasn't a scam, it was branding. Governments saw what was happening and wanted in. Green stimulus became the economic engine of the 2020s. The U.S. Inflation Reduction Act pledged over $370 billion for climate and clean energy. On paper, it was about saving the planet. In reality, corporate subsidies at planetary scale. Every EV factory got tax credits. Every solar project got grants. Every battery plant came with government money attached. And who got that money? Not small innovators, not grassroots startups. The same old giants, just repainted green. Meanwhile, climate policy became a geopolitical weapon. The European Union created something called the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Sounds boring, right? It's actually a tariff. They tax imports based on carbon footprint. Officially, it's about fairness. In reality, it's economic leverage. It protects European industries while taxing competitors, all in the name of the climate. And China? They flipped the entire script. Western countries spent decades calling China the world's biggest polluter, and they were right. But while everyone was pointing fingers, China quietly became the world's top producer of solar panels, wind turbines, and EV batteries. Not to save the planet, to dominate the supply chain. Now Western countries are dependent on China for the technology they need to go green. The empire shifted east, not through war, through supply dependency. Behind all of this is one truth that never changes. Control the scarcity, control the world. In the past, it was oil and gas. Now it's carbon credits, rare minerals, and green tech patents. But there's a new kind of scarcity that's even more valuable: stability itself. Insurance companies won't insure whole regions anymore. Banks factor climate risk into your mortgage rate. Investment funds buy drought-resistant farmland.
Every data model, every algorithm, every projection turns future disaster into present-day profit. The markets don't deny climate change. They depend on it. You can see it in how capital values the future now. Traditionally, finance says $1 tomorrow is worth less than $1 today. But climate economics flips that. The worse the forecast, the more valuable the hedge. Water rights in the Southwest, farmland at higher elevations, coastal property that won't flood, all quietly appreciating as people price in catastrophe. Some hedge funds actually call it climate alpha, extra profit from predicting chaos. It's not evil, it's not a conspiracy. It's just what markets do. They find the fear and they sell the solution. Here's the uncomfortable part. Not everything happening is cynical. Real progress is being made. Solar is cheaper than ever. Battery technology is improving. Sustainable farming models are emerging. But the system ensures that progress never travels in a straight line. Take carbon offsets. In theory, you can pay to plant trees or fund clean energy projects to offset your pollution. Sounds great. In reality, a 2023 investigation found that over 90% of rainforest carbon offsets from one major certifier were worthless. The forests were already cut down, or they never existed, or they were going to be protected anyway. But the trades kept happening because the belief, the illusion, was profitable. It let airlines keep flying, oil companies keep drilling, consumers keep consuming. It bought time. It sold forgiveness. And that's the secret of the climate economy. It runs on faith. Not faith in nature, faith in the system's ability to reinvent itself every time it breaks. Because capitalism never wastes a crisis. It adapts, it repackages. It sells the solution back to the people who caused the problem. That's not conspiracy, that's continuity. Here's the part that should make you angry. When the planet burns, the rich don't panic. They invest.
A billionaire builds a luxury bunker in New Zealand. A tech founder buys a ranch in Patagonia. A bank creates a new line of resilience bonds. The message is clear: survival is a premium product. But for everyone else, the middle-class family in Florida, the farmer in India, the renter in California, climate isn't abstract. It's insurance that disappears, food prices that double, electricity bills that never go down no matter how many solar panels get installed. This isn't like other economic transformations. The climate economy doesn't just create winners and losers. It divides the world into those who can afford to adapt and those who can't. And the gap gets wider every single year. So let's come back to where we started. Some people still argue about whether climate change is real. The market doesn't. It already voted with trillions of dollars. Insurance, energy, agriculture, tech, they've all priced it in. Your belief is irrelevant when capital believes for you. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and the rhyme scheme is always profit. The Dutch traded tulips, the British traded tea, the Americans traded oil. Now the world trades its own survival. Because climate change isn't just the defining crisis of our century, it's the defining asset class. And the only thing more powerful than the fear of collapse is the opportunity to sell protection from it. Crises don't create greed, they reveal it. The same instinct that drove people to buy worthless mortgage bonds in 2007 now drives them to trade carbon futures and climate derivatives. We call it innovation. It's just monetized fear. But here's what gives me hope and why I keep making these videos. The more you understand how the game works, the harder it is to play you. The powerful rely on your ignorance. They count on you not connecting the dots, not following the money, not asking why. That's where we come in. If this video changed how you see the world, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because every week, we're digging through the past to expose the patterns they don't want you to see. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look. I'm the monetary archaeologist, and I'll see you in the next one.